So sorry guys, I tried a new microphone today with a new camera and it looked crisp, but the audio didn't sync up with the video. So when I talk at the beginning here, it may not quite line up, but don't worry about it. And here we go. Hey everybody, it's good to see you guys again. Thanks for coming and checking out a little more enrichment here for some music. Appreciate you guys being here. We're starting to get to that different weather here, so hopefully you guys are enjoying that a little bit as well. All right, so today, I know it's been a while since we got into the keyboard, but we've touched on the keyboard a few times throughout the year, especially a few months back. We've spent a few different songs we learned on the keyboard. Now, let's try to knock the dust off those skills and come back and try another one today. It's a little bit of a famous little tune that's been used a lot in different cartoons, television shows, movies for, honestly, about over 100 years. So today we're going to explore a piece of music called In the Hall of the Mountain King by a fellow by the name of Edvard Grieg. Maybe you know it by name. If you don't know it by name, stick around because I think you'll recognize it once you hear it. Edvard Grieg was a Norwegian composer. I mean, he's from Norway, which is northern Europe, up near what they call an area called Scandinavia. It's really cold up there a lot. The original name of this song, it wasn't written in English, so it wasn't actually called In the Hall of the Mountain King. And I'll tell you what the name of it actually referred to later on. So who the Mountain King is, I want you guys to think about that today as you listen to the music. Try to think about what could this be about, all right? A lot of people find the song kind of creepy, almost a little bit spooky and scary, but it builds a lot of tension. It's a lot of fun. It's a good one. You may find it scary, you might not, but check it out and have some fun with it. This one was used really famously. We checked it out a little bit when we talked about leitmotifs not that long ago. This one was used in German cinema, but a very famous movie called The Letter M that was about, it basically was the leitmotif for this evil bad guy that was like a murderer. So a lot of people could associate it with being like an evil thing, but it's a pretty exciting little creepy song that's been around for a long time and it still gets used. It's been one of the most influential pieces of music for a lot of modern movie music as well. So we're going to check it out. We're going to go over to the keyboard and give it a best shot. So today what you're going to need is the link to our touchscreen keyboards. If you happen to be at home and you have a little keyboard of some sort at your house or your family has a piano, check it out. Try that out. If you can't get to that right now, that's all right. If you've got a touchscreen on your laptop or you have an iPad or some sort of a tablet that has a keyboard app or can get a keyboard app, try it out with me today. All right, guys. So here we go. We're going to hop over and check it out. All right, here we go. All right, guys. So here we are. We have a song called In the Hall of the Mountain King. This was written by Edvard Grieg, a guy that maybe his name isn't really well known, but a lot of the music he's written, you've probably heard it a lot in different movies, different TV shows, cartoons, especially the cartoons. Seem to use his music quite a bit. A little bit provocative. Some people find this song to be really enchanting. Some people find the song a little bit scary, but it's a fun one. So we're going to check it out. And if you're, up and coming on the keyboard and you want to get your keyboard skills a little better, even if you don't really know how to play keys, this is a good one that you can totally pull out at a family party if you're around a keyboard. Be like, look what I can do. So let's check it out. So we're going to zoom in here. A few things we want to take a look at first. We have what we call the grand staff. Okay. The grand staff is when we have both the treble clef staff, remember this good old guy right here, and the bass clef right here. They each have their own staff, treble clef staff, bass clef staff. But over here you can see they're connected. That's how you play the piano. Basically you think there's your left hand and there's your right hand. For today, for the sake of what we're doing, most of the laptops that we're using to have these keyboards, since very few of us actually have a keyboard that we can use at our disposal, we're going to focus in on just one of these lines, all right? Now, the bass part line, it's cool, but by itself, it doesn't really sound like much. It's really meant to accompany the part we have on the treble clef line. So we're actually going to go ahead and just completely disregard whatever is on the bass clef line for today, because unfortunately, our touchscreen laptop situation does not really let us play more than one note at the same time, and you would see that these first two notes right here are played at the same time. So we're going to have to kind of pick our battles here. So we're going to just focus in on the top line of each of these staffs. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to highlight the bass clef staffs in green. And all the green is going to mean for today is just don't worry about this. We're not going to play the parts in green, okay? So if you guys see the parts in green, just do not worry about it, all right? We're going to focus up on our treble clef parts instead. Back to and learn it later on. That's why I didn't put it out here in like a black Sharpie or anything. That would have really made it impossible to read. So I left that here in case you guys want to come back to it and check it out. But we're going to focus up on these other lines that we have here, okay? Now, when we look at this, it's actually kind of cool. We have the finger numbers that we're going to use up top. I know they're a little small. I'm going to zoom in just a moment. And inside the note, it also tells us the actual letter. I'm going to go ahead and help us out and just rewrite some of the letters here for certain parts. But we're not going to have to rewrite the whole thing, and I'll show you why as we go further forward. So really, what we have here is basically two musical phrases that are based on the same idea. They both start off the same way, but it's kind of like how we end the sentence of music, if you will, that is different. All right. And once we know half of this, we actually will be able to figure out the whole thing. So once we know this, we can actually do this without really that much work. And I'll show you how and why in just a second. So let's get into it. All right, so we're looking good here. So here's our first line, all right? Just so you guys know, you can always figure out what measure we're on because they give us the measure number at the beginning of each line. So right here, this is measure number 1, which means this right here is measure number 2 after the bar line right here. The next line is going to start on measure 3. This will be measure 4, not to be confused with finger 4 that's written right here. Down here, this will be measure 5. There's a bar line that's measure 6. And then down below here, which you can't see, is a little off camera right now, there are a 7th and 8th measure. That's all we have, just 8 measures. So let's get into it. So our first measure here. Not all music will give you this, but it's really hard to see maybe from on your end here, but they actually wrote the letter A inside this first note. Hopefully we remember that this third note right here, 1, 2, 3, third note, it actually has one line going through. We call that a ledger line. Think back. We talked about this a few weeks back. This is, of course, the note C, which is our most commonly used starting point on the keyboard. We're not going to be starting on C. We're going to be starting 2 notes below that. Remember, if we go back, this one's right below that line, so that's the letter before C. It's got to be a B. And this one has 2 lines through it. So that means A, B, C. This is going to start on the pitch A. It's going to be a low A. I'll help you through it when we get over to the keyboard here in just a little bit. So it just goes right up the keyboard here. A, so we have line, space below the line, space between the lines, if you will, line, go right up. So we're going to go A, B, C, D, E. If you take a look here, it's finger 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're just going to go bum, 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 just like that. Okay, but after that, we start messing around here. So this one goes back down to this one line through it. We already know that should be C. It still uses the same third finger as C right there. And then we come back up to that same note we were just on, which this is going to be E. I know it's kind of hard for you guys to read what they have printed on here. This image didn't really print that well. That's why we're going to go through, add in a few notes ourselves. For those of you that ever get into music on your own here, really do not suggest writing in every single note like this. I'm just putting this here so we can see it, since most of us are starting out. But as time goes on, we really want to be able to just look at these notes and not have to worry about writing in every letter. All right, so we have A, B, C, D, E, C, E. Let's keep going. Over here we have this note. It has a symbol on it, little number sign, little hashtag for those of you in the modern Twitter age. But that's not what we call a hashtag in music. We call that a sharp sign, all right? So this is actually going to be a black key on the keyboard. We talked about this a few weeks back. Black keys have special symbols. We'll see the other one later in this measure. That's not just any note. You see there's no line going through. It's just below that bottom line of the 5 lines of staff. So that's a D. So it's actually going to be a D sharp, okay? So that means it's going to be the black key just to the right of D because sharp makes things a little bit higher, all right? That's what the sharp sign does. Here, this note does have a line, but it's not going through the note. It's just above its head, just like that one right there. That's going to be a B. We're back to the D sharp again. Notice they still marked it sharp. Sometimes they won't do that because this is beginner music. They do. And now we have this symbol. Think back when we talked about sharps. We also talked about this symbol over here, which we'll get to in a second, flats. And then we talked about this right here. Whenever you have a sharp or a flat and you don't want it to be a sharp or a flat anymore, when you want to make it go from a black key back to the normal old white key, you put this symbol. This is what we call the natural sign. All right. So this is going to be just a plain old normal D, white key, a white key D right there. We're not going to be on a sharp anymore when we get to that one. But this right here is something slightly different. This looks just like this note, but it's got a little symbol. So it's a B. That little B, which don't confuse with the pitch B, stands for what? Flat. B flat. So that's what the little B flat. And then we end again on D. This is again going to be a white key D, not a D sharp. Okay, so we now have our first line done. A, B, C, D, E, C, E, D sharp, B, D sharp, B, D, B flat, D. Kind of a tongue twister. Sounds a lot better when you play it on the keyboard. All right, guys, we're out of time here for part 1, so I'll see you back for part 2 in a few minutes.